What happened when an undercover CEO walked into her own café disguised as a trainee? You're about to find out. Hey there, amazing listeners. You've got sharp instincts for choosing this story. Today's tale dives deep into what happens when quiet injustice meets fearless leadership. It's about trust, accountability, and one woman who refused to look the other way. If you've ever wondered what true leadership looks like behind the scenes, stay with us, because everything is about to change at Café 12. Amelia Tran sat alone in her minimalist office at the headquarters of Harvest and Hearth, her coffee slowly cooling beside a stack of weekly performance reports. It was early morning, before the flood of meetings, decisions, and emails would demand her focus. But this was her ritual. She read the numbers before anyone could spin them. One report made her pause. Café 12, located in a suburban strip outside Portland, showed 4 consecutive weeks of small but consistent register shortages. Not huge sums, $27.00 one week, $31.00 the next, but enough to signal a pattern. Amelia had built her cafe chain on transparency and trust, growing it from a single converted barn into a beloved 20-location brand. She prided herself on knowing her team, on staying close to the ground, but lately with expansion, she'd been pulled into the high-level view, relying on regional managers and second-hand reports. And now her instincts told her something wasn't right. The district manager's notes scribbled in the margin didn't help. Probably clerical error or new hire mistake, nothing to worry about. But Amelia didn't believe in brushing off patterns. She had seen too many businesses rot from the inside because leaders stopped looking closely. She needed to see it herself. Not as the CEO, not in a surprise inspection, but as someone who could observe without being watched. She made a quiet call to HR, requesting an inactive employee file be reactivated under the name May Tanda, pseudonym she'd used years ago when evaluating stores. Within 48 hours, she had new ID badges, a staff apron, and a single-day barista training refresher booked under an assumed name. No press, no alerts, and no one from corporate contacts at that location, she instructed her assistant. Tell the regional team I'm off-grid this week. As she packed a plain messenger bag with old clothes, a used planner, and a second-hand phone, Amelia felt a strange mix of nerves and certainty. She hadn't walked the floor of one of her cafes in months, certainly not anonymously. But if she wanted to understand what was happening at Café 12, she couldn't afford polished reports and filtered updates. She needed to see how her team moved when no one thought the boss was watching. It wasn't about catching someone. It was about understanding the culture that allowed something like this to happen. And if the rot went deeper, she'd find it quietly. Then she'd tear it out by the root. 3 days later, Amelia Tran stood in the gravel parking lot of Café 12, dressed in second-hand sneakers, a faded gray cardigan, and a worn apron embroidered with the Harvest and Hearth logo. A name tag that read May was clipped to her chest, and a knit beanie covered her signature dark bob. She wore glasses, not the sleek designer frames she usually chose, but thin wire ones that slipped slightly down her nose. She looked like any other new hire, slightly nervous, undercaffeinated, and hoping to make a good impression. No one would guess she was the founder and CEO of the company. That was exactly the point. She took a deep breath, then stepped inside. The cafe smelled like fresh rosemary focaccia and espresso. The wooden beams overhead gave the place a warm, rustic charm, but the energy behind the counter was tense. Brent Lawson, the store's manager, was leaned against a crate of produce, texting with one hand and sipping a smoothie with the other. "You the new one?" he asked, barely glancing up. "Me, right?" Amelia nodded. "Cool. You'll be shadowing Lily today. Just don't slow things down. We're short-staffed." Without waiting for a response, Brent waved her toward the back kitchen. Amelia kept her expression neutral. She wasn't here for him. Yet. Inside the prep area, she found Lily Moreno prepping coffee filters with calm efficiency. She looked to be in her early 20s, with a no-nonsense bun, sleeves rolled neatly, and a quiet focus that instantly caught Amelia's attention. "Hey there," Lily said with a small smile. "You must be May. I'll walk you through the register and drink station. Lunch rush can get intense, so stick close." Amelia followed her through a quick walkthrough of the POS system, noting Lily's steady tone, clean station, and professional warmth with customers. Unlike Brent, Lily never barked orders or tuned out. She handled a rude customer with grace, fixed a coworker's mislabeled order without complaint, and double-checked the till after every cash sale. It was only Amelia's first shift, but the contrast between Lily and Brent was already stark. More importantly, Amelia felt the pulse of something she'd almost forgotten, what it meant to earn trust on the floor, one shift at a time. Lily worked like someone with something to lose, and she carried the team's weight without showing it. As Amelia blended into the rhythm of the store, wiping counters and ringing up scones, she kept her eyes and ears open. Something was happening here. The numbers hadn't lied, but she needed more than data. She needed to see what people did when they thought no one important was watching. And already, one name was rising above the rest. Lily. By late morning, the cafe was humming with the lunch crowd, orders flying in, milk steaming, knives chopping. Amelia, still in her role as May, moved in sync with Lily behind the counter. She admired how the young woman handled multitasking with precision, calmly managing the register and beverage station while answering questions from coworkers and customers alike. But just after 12:30 p.m., something subtle but unsettling happened. A middle-aged customer ordered a salad, muffin, and herbal tea, totaling $22.47, and paid in cash. Lily rang the order, opened the drawer, then paused. Amelia, wiping down the pastry case just a few feet away, caught the hesitation. It lasted only a second, but in that second, Lily's hand slid beneath the drawer and then quickly closed it. Amelia's eyes narrowed. The movement had been too smooth, too practiced, and far too intentional to ignore. She didn't say anything yet. The rush continued, and Lily returned to her efficient self, but that moment clung to Amelia like steam on glass. At the end of the shift, as the team wiped counters and restocked napkins, Amelia found Lily folding aprons in the back. "Hey," Amelia said quietly, keeping her tone casual. "Can I ask you something? Earlier, when that customer paid cash, it looked like you slipped something under the register." Lily froze. Her face was drained of color. I can explain," she said quickly, her voice barely above a whisper. She glanced around to make sure no one else was within earshot, then led Amelia to the dry storage hallway near the back. "It was $30, Lily said, her hands trembling slightly. "The drawer came up short. I didn't take anything, I swear. I've been covering it with my own money." She looked ashamed but not guilty. "Brent's been threatening to fire people for the smallest mistake. I can't lose this job. My grandmother's sick and I'm the only one taking care of her." She swallowed hard. "I thought maybe I miscounted, but I checked twice. It's happened before. I thought I was just being careful." Amelia felt a mix of relief and dread. Lily wasn't stealing, she was plugging holes. Holes someone else had created. "How many times have you done that?" she asked softly. 3, maybe 4. "I kept the receipts," Lily replied, pulling a small envelope from her apron pocket. "I wasn't trying to hide anything, I just didn't know who I could tell." Amelia gave her a slow nod. "Don't worry," she said, her voice firm but gentle. "We're not done yet, just keep doing what you're doing." As Lily returned to the front, Amelia stayed behind a moment longer, thinking. Someone else was stealing, and Lily was paying the price. That night, long after the cafe lights dimmed and the last scone had been wrapped, Amelia sat alone in the back office, logged in under her real credentials. The screen glowed in the dark room as she accessed 2 weeks of security footage. It didn't take long to find what she was looking for. The footage showed Connor Vance, young, sharp-dressed, always with wireless earbuds in, working the register during slower hours. He moved with a kind of casual arrogance, breezing through orders without much eye contact. But Amelia noticed it right away, his timing. Each time a customer paid in cash, Connor would linger a few extra seconds at the drawer, his back slightly turned. In 2 clips, he clearly palmed small bills and slipped them into his apron pocket when no one was looking. And what was worse, on both occasions, Brent walked past and didn't say a word. His eyes glanced in Connor's direction, but there was no reaction, no accountability, just silence. Amelia leaned back in the office chair, her gut tightening. Connor wasn't just opportunistic, he was comfortable. That meant this wasn't a one-time thing. And Brent's nonchalance wasn't ignorance, it was complicity. The next morning, Amelia returned to the cafe with a sharper focus. She stayed close to the action, noting how Brent kept his distance from most of the staff but gave Connor frequent nods and free rein of the cash register. Meanwhile, Lily continued to lead by example, staying late, fixing mistakes, and quietly absorbing stress that wasn't hers to carry. By mid-afternoon, Connor had already worked 2 solo cash transactions. Amelia stood a little closer than before, her eyes trained on his hands. He didn't steal this time, she was watching too closely. But the unease on his face confirmed everything. He knew something was shifting. During the post-lunch lull, Amelia noticed something else. Connor always insisted on using Register 2, even when it meant ignoring the natural flow of the floor. He handled cash orders personally, brushing off teammates who offered to help, and every time he closed the drawer, he shifted his body just enough to shield it from the view of coworkers. It wasn't just what Connor did, it was how easy it had been for him to keep doing it. The systems weren't broken, they'd been ignored. Brent's leadership style had created an environment of fear and silence where someone like Lily felt the need to cover for theft to protect her job. Amelia knew she couldn't confront them yet, not without risking the trust she was still earning from the team. She needed more patterns, proof, and most importantly, she needed to know how deep this rot went. So, she stayed quiet, observing, recording, waiting for the moment when silence would no longer be enough. 2 days later, Brent called a mandatory team meeting in the cramped kitchen just after the morning prep. Amelia stood off to the side with a mop in hand, still in character as May, but alert. The team, Lily, Connor, Rosa, and Zeke, gathered near the walk-in cooler, surrounded by boxes of produce and half-unloaded crates. Brent leaned against a folding table with his arms crossed, and that same indifferent smirk he always wore when pretending to lead. "Listen up," he said, voice raised just enough to make his dominance known. "I don't want to hear anything else about register issues. If your drawer's short, you fix it. I'm not getting chewed out by the corporate over a few missing bucks. Got it?" His gaze didn't land on anyone in particular, but the message was clear. If something went wrong, it was your fault, and your problem. No one spoke. Lily's posture straightened almost imperceptibly, her lips pressed into a line. Rosa looked down at her shoes. Connor didn't even look up from his phone. Amelia watched the reactions with quiet intensity. This wasn't just mismanagement, it was fear management. Brent had created a culture where mistakes weren't discussed, they were punished, and in that silence, real problems like theft thrived. After the meeting, Amelia struck up quiet conversations with the others during side tasks. Rosa was stocking paper cups when Amelia asked how she was holding up. 6 days a week, Rosa replied with a tired smile. Gotta make rent and keep the lights on. Brent doesn't like complaints, so I just keep showing up. She hesitated before adding, "Last time I asked for help, he cut my hours the week after." Zeke, while cleaning the blender station, was more cautious, but just as revealing. "Connor does whatever he wants," he muttered. "I saw him leave with Brent after closing one night. They hang out sometimes, I think." Amelia didn't press, just nodded, letting the pieces settle. Brent wasn't just ignoring bad behavior, he was protecting it. Whether it was favoritism, denial, or shared benefit, didn't matter. What mattered was that people like Lily and Rosa were paying the price. Good employees were surviving, not thriving, and no one felt safe enough to raise their voice. This was deeper than one thief, it was an infection of silence, spreading through every shift, every policy, every moment where someone felt alone in the weight they carried. And Amelia knew what had to happen next. Not just exposure, but a reckoning. Amelia arrived early the next morning, apron already tied, her hands wrapped around a paper coffee cup as she waited for the lights to flicker on. Brent showed up 10 minutes late, as usual, muttering something about traffic, and waved her off when she asked to take register duty for the first half of the shift. "Fine," he said, barely looking up. "Just don't screw it up, and don't touch register 2, that's Connor's." Amelia nodded silently, but already had her plan in motion. She took register 1 and meticulously recorded every transaction. Every bill was counted twice, every order cross-checked with receipts. For 3 hours, she ran the register like a machine. No gaps, no errors, no drama. When Brent came to check the drawer at noon, the total was exact, down to the penny. "Finally," he muttered, tossing the count sheet onto the prep table. "Someone who can actually count." That afternoon, she asked to shadow Connor directly. "You want to see how the pros do it?" He scoffed, clearly amused, but he didn't object. Amelia stayed close, too close for his comfort. She was always there, beside him, watching every keystroke and drawer flick, and just like that, the magic vanished. Connor's confidence drained. He didn't steal a single cent that day, but his irritation was palpable. "You always gonna hover like that?" he asked as the shift wound down. "Just trying to learn," she replied with a smile. But he knew. Later that night, Amelia returned to the cafe after closing, letting herself into the back office. The air was quiet except for the soft hum of refrigeration and the clicking of her keyboard. She spent 3 hours reviewing the last 7 days of camera footage. Between shifts, during lulls, after hours, 4 separate incidents appeared on screen. Each time, Connor took bills, never more than $30, always when no one was watching. But in one video, someone did see Lily. The camera caught her noticing the theft. She flinched, blinked, and then just turned back to her station. No confrontation, no report. The next day, during Lily's break, Amelia found her sitting on the curb outside, sipping water and eating a granola bar. "You saw him, didn't you?" she asked gently. Lily stared ahead for a long moment before answering. "I can't prove anything, and if I say something, Brent will just say I'm making it up because I messed up once. He already thinks I'm soft." Her voice cracked slightly. "I'm tired of cleaning up other people's messes." Amelia didn't respond right away. She looked at Lily, not just at her words, but her posture, her eyes, the weight she carried. "You shouldn't have to," Amelia said, "but thank you for not letting this place fall apart. I'm going to fix it, just not yet, because tomorrow the reckoning will begin." The following morning, Amelia arrived before sunrise, her breath visible in the chilly air as she unlocked the cafe's side entrance. She wore her usual cardigan and apron, but her purpose had shifted. Today she wouldn't be just May the trainee. Today she would bring the truth into the light. She waited until Brent arrived, late and yawning, coffee in one hand and his phone in the other. "Need to talk," Amelia said, her tone calm but final. "Privately." Brent gave her a sidelong look, annoyed, but led her into the back office. She shut the door behind them, reached into her bag, and placed her real ID on the desk. Her name, Amelia Tran, was printed in bold, followed by her title, Founder and CEO, Harvest and Hearth. Brent stared at it, blinking like he'd been slapped. "You're the..." he stammered. "Yes," Amelia said coolly. "And I've been here all week watching you ignore theft, silence your team, and punish the wrong people?" Brent's face flushed, but he scrambled to save himself. "I didn't know Connor must have..." "You walked past him twice while he was stealing," she cut in. "It's on camera, and even if you weren't in on it, you let it happen." Her voice remained steady, but her gaze burned. "You're done here, Brent. Your contract is terminated, effective immediately." She didn't wait for him to protest. She stepped out of the office and called the staff together, Lily, Rosa, Zeke, and Connor included. They gathered near the prep station, confusion on their faces. "My name's not May," Amelia began. "It's Amelia Tran. I own this company." The silence that followed was absolute. Connor shifted uncomfortably. Lily's eyes widened. Rosa dropped the roll of parchment paper she was holding. "I came here because the numbers didn't add up," Amelia continued, "and what I found was more than a short drawer. I found fear, silence, and people did the right thing while others took advantage of it." She turned to Connor. "You've been stealing small amounts of cash regularly. It's all documented. Your employment ends today." Connor's mouth opened, but no words came. He looked toward Brent, still standing in the doorway, pale and speechless, but found no help. Then Amelia faced the rest of the team. "This cafe is better than what's been allowed to happen here. That ends now. Things will change starting today." The weight of truth hung in the room like thick steam. No applause followed, no grand reaction, just relief, quiet, heavy, and undeniable. For the first time in months, Lily didn't look tired, she looked hopeful. After the storm of revelation passed, Amelia sat down with Lily in the break room later that afternoon. The kitchen hummed quietly beyond the swinging door, but inside the small space it was still, almost reverent. Lily sat with her hands folded tightly in her lap, unsure whether to expect praise or punishment. "I wanted to thank you," Amelia began, her tone warm but steady. "Not just for the register, for everything. You held this place together when no one else would." Lily's eyes flickered with emotion, but she said nothing. "I reviewed the last few months of operations," Amelia continued. "You've been mentoring new hires, fixing supply issues, managing morning prep, and covering shifts that weren't yours." She reached into her bag and placed a sealed envelope on the table. "This is an offer for assistant manager, full-time salary, benefits, flexible schedule, and performance bonuses. You've already been doing the job, now you'll get the title." Lily stared at the envelope like it was something fragile and unreal. "Why me?" she asked softly. "Because you never stopped caring," Amelia replied, "even when no one was listening." A long silence passed between them, then Lily gave a small, almost disbelieving nod. "Okay," she whispered, "but only if I can work out a schedule that lets me keep taking care of my grandma." "Non-negotiable," Amelia said with a smile. "We'll even make it official. I'm rewriting company policy to better support caregivers across all locations." Outside the break room, Amelia began implementing deeper reforms. She called a meeting with corporate HR that same evening and laid out a plan to launch anonymous employee feedback systems, scheduled check-ins with leadership, and a rotating audit system that would send real observers, not just district managers, to each store every quarter. The culture had slipped under her radar once. It wouldn't happen again. Back at Café 12, the shift carried on with a strange but welcome calm. No one cheered, no one danced, but the air was lighter. Rosa joked more freely, Zeke offered to stay late without prompting, and Lily stood at the register, teaching a new hire how to split payment between gift card and cash, her voice even and patient. Amelia stepped out for a moment to get some air. She looked up at the wooden sign above the cafe door, unchanged. But inside, something was shifting, not because someone gave an inspiring speech, but because someone finally stopped pretending not to see, and someone else, someone quiet and steady, had never stopped trying to hold it together. A week after Brent's dismissal and Connor's termination, the cafe began a delicate process of healing. Amelia remained involved but deliberately stepped back from day-to-day oversight, giving the team space to rediscover its rhythm. In her place, Harvest and Hearth appointed Monica Ellis, a sharp, composed manager from one of their top-performing cafes, to take over as interim leader at Café 12. Monica didn't arrive with clipboards or sweeping changes. For the first 10 days, she observed. She watched how the line moved, how prep flowed, and more importantly, how people responded to pressure. She pulled Lily aside not with demands, but with questions. What's working here? Where do we fall short? What do you need to succeed? Monica quickly saw what Amelia already knew. The team had heart, but they were stretched thin and emotionally spent. Lily, now assistant manager, was dependable as ever, but wary. Rosa still shouldered too much of the early shift, and Zeke, though diligent, remained quiet and guarded. So Monica made small but powerful adjustments. She reinstated paid overlap between shifts, something Lily had once suggested to Brent and been dismissed for. She ensured team meetings happened on the clock, not after. She responded to maintenance requests the same day they were filed. When Zeke quietly flagged the back fridge making strange noises again, Monica didn't roll her eyes or delay. She called the repair team within the hour. "You reported it. That matters," she told him. His shoulders dropped in visible relief. Amelia returned unannounced one Friday afternoon, dressed in a casual jacket, her presence now familiar but unobtrusive. She watched from a corner table as Lily trained a new barista with steady guidance. Monica was at the prep station with Rosa, checking supply levels together like equals. Zeke wiped down tables without being asked, earbuds in, humming to himself. The energy wasn't loud, but it was alive, focused, smooth, and steady. The fear was gone. Later, Amelia stood beside Monica in the back hallway, near the staff corkboard now filled with notes of appreciation and shift shoutouts. "How's it going?" she asked. Monica smiled, a rare but sincere gesture. "They're tired," she said honestly. "But they're trying. The culture's rebuilding itself in real time." Amelia nodded. "That's all I could ask for." As she left that afternoon, Amelia noticed Lily scribbling notes on a clipboard near the dry storage shelves, pausing now and then to check counts. She looked up briefly and caught Amelia's eye. No nod, no words, just a subtle lift of the chin, a quiet acknowledgement, not of authority, but of trust. And Amelia knew this place didn't need a rescue anymore. It needed time, it needed space, and finally, it had both. A month after her undercover return, Amelia Tran stepped quietly into Café 12 one last time, not as a trainee, not as a supervisor, but as a visitor. No one noticed her arrival, and that was exactly how she wanted it. The cafe was humming with a quiet energy that felt natural, unforced. Lily was at the front register, walking a new hire through a complicated, split-ordered transaction, with a patience Amelia had come to deeply admire. In the kitchen, Rosa and Monica were reviewing the week's inventory together. Zeke wiped down tables with practiced ease, earbuds in, rhythm in his step. There was no sign of fear, no tension, just a team working in sync, holding their space with confidence. Amelia ordered a tea and sat near the back window, taking in the view she'd once seen as a challenge, now transformed into a living reminder of what leadership truly meant. No one rushed to impress her. No one stumbled because of her presence. They didn't need to, because this cafe no longer relied on someone watching to run well. It had rebuilt its own foundation. Culture, Amelia realized, wasn't restored with grand gestures. It was rebuilt through attention, consistency, and the courage to listen. When Lily passed by her table to deliver an order, Amelia stood and met her gaze. "How's everything?" she asked. Lily didn't hesitate. "We're steady. Still short a hand or two, but Monica's helping cover where it counts." Amelia nodded. "And you?" Lily smiled. Not the uncertain, guarded smile from before, but something firmer. "Still tired, but I'm not alone in it anymore." That was all Amelia needed to hear. Outside, a woman and her young son approached the cafe doors. The boy pointed excitedly at the cookie display inside. "That's the place I told you about!" he exclaimed. The mother smiled and followed him in. Amelia stepped out of the way, letting the door swing open behind them. She paused at the edge of the sidewalk, glancing back once at the wooden sign hanging over the window. It hadn't changed. The name hadn't changed. But the people inside had. They weren't just surviving anymore. They were being seen, supported, trusted. Later that evening, Amelia called her operations director and finalized the rollout of the new leadership observation program. Unfiltered audits, caregiver accommodations, anonymous reporting lines. It wouldn't fix everything overnight, but it would be a start, because the real lesson wasn't about catching a thief, it was about remembering what happens when leaders forget to show up, and what changes when they finally do. The story of Café 12 teaches a powerful lesson about leadership, trust, and the unseen weight many employees carry. When Amelia Tran, the CEO, went undercover, she didn't just uncover theft. She revealed a deeper problem, a toxic culture where silence replaced support and good people were punished for doing the right thing. The real damage wasn't caused by the money stolen, but by the fear, neglect, and lack of accountability that allowed it to continue unchecked. The lesson is clear: leaders must stay connected to the people and places they serve. Data and reports can't replace presence, empathy, or genuine observation. Amelia's decision to step in, listen, and act restored not just operations, but morale, dignity, and direction. It showed that meaningful change begins when someone pays attention and follows through. It also reminds us that everyday heroes, like Lily, often go unnoticed, holding things together quietly until someone finally sees their worth. Organizations thrive not just because of systems, but because of people who care. Leadership isn't about control, it's about responsibility, humility, and the courage to rebuild trust from the ground up. And sometimes, the most transformative leadership begins not with a title, but with a question. What's really going on here?